Yeah, I am on my mobile right now until my laptop is starting.
So that's okay. Um, uh, Everyone, can you hear us? Please let us know. Everyone, can you hear us or not? Thank you. So that is good that everyone can hear us. So, hi Vipul, how are you? And sorry for
Doing great.
inviting on such a short notice. We had another session
No
planned, but
problem. No
it
problem.
got cancelled. So today will be about getting career advice and how to deal with the anxiety of actually facing interviews. So can we start with
Awesome.
a brief introduction of you, please? That would be great for our listeners. Actually,
Yeah, hi guys.
how about we start in 2 minutes so that everyone can have the time to join?
Sure. Yeah, let me know.
So we'll start within 2 minutes. Until then, let's just try and ask how everyone is. So sorry for the delay, guys, but I hope that now we can get a good session out of this, and I hope you can get something really valuable from this. And we'll just wait for some people to join in so that we can make this session a success. So, by the way, Vipul here is an engineer at Microsoft. He was previously a part of Adobe.
It's joining it from my laptop now. So
Yeah,
if you could
that's
accept.
yes. Yes. One second. Let me just change the scene first. So, hi everyone. Now we'll just start the session. So, first of all, how are you, Vipul?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Simon. How are you?
I'm also good. By the way, this is so weird because we are actually brothers in case, I mean, anyone. So that's why I'm just having this favor over from my brother. Anyway,
Yeah,
so thank
no
you for
problem.
sort of saving this session. We had something planned, but that didn't go well. So we had to do this now.
Happens.
Yes. So, any advice that you want to start with about how did you reach from uh, nowhere to Adobe to Microsoft? How will you start with that advice? What path should others follow?
Yeah, couldn't get it. Could you repeat, Simon?
So, what path do you think that young students should follow to get into a big organization like Adobe and then Microsoft and others?
Okay. Um, so targeting big organization is good, but what I would say is focusing on building skills right now is important. And big organization might look shiny on resume, but there are a lot of different IT organizations and startups which are also having good, tech culture. They pay you comparative to what industry standard these days is, and so I would basically suggest everyone here to basically focus on building skills. Try to identify which subcategory of IT you find more interesting. Is it web security? Is it is data science, machine learning, and all, or is it web services? And then try to grow up, grow up in that particular stack, and that is how it should be. So aiming for a big organization like Microsoft, Adobe, Google, Amazon is good, and having set that aim for yourself helps you in building your own skills. You'll probably end up, you know, practicing more. But do focus on your skills, and once you are ready with your skills, you become more relevant to IT industry, and companies become more basically companies welcome you with open arms, and you can ace with what you do, and you can also perform well in your interviews. So if you're college students right now, focus on your skills. That is my suggestion. That is what I did. I was not worried about placements. I was worried about placements when they actually came, but before that, I was focusing more on uh, building up my skills. So it's a phase, and as you are on. So most of the time right now, you're supposed to spend on your learning. So that is what my recommendation is.
So, as I know that you have multiple patents, could you just tell me how many patents and how many research papers have you worked on?
Okay. I have 8 applications, some of which are approved, some of which are pending right now.
Okay. So, if it is not under an NDA, could you discuss about how, I mean, what are those patents related to, and how did you start with research and filing the patents, and what is the process over there?
Okay, I cannot definitely tell you about what exactly those patents are. What I can tell is, um, so filing a patent is a complicated process, and it involves a lot of legal uh, issues and all. And core filing part is basically done by legal who in legals who, I mean, each company might be having their own legal branch, and they might be handing over to outside legal counsels or internal counsels, and they also have companies also have an internal review mechanism. The core thing here to focus is the core thing here is basically you should focus on identifying a problem statement. And if you feel, if let's say if you're using any product which your company makes or company ships out, and you see there's a core problem in that, and you can relate to it as a customer, and then you innovatively come up with a solution that uh, resolves the problem, then that innovation may qualify for patent.
So,
I mean, criteria for patent. It has to be innovative. It has to be novel. And once that criteria passes, then you can qualify for innovation. So idea here is to basically be innovative and be keen to explore opportunities where you see your current product which you are handling or your company is handling is lacking. So that is what the idea is. Identify the problem, build a solution, and then see if it is something you can push
viable.
for patent or not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually meant to ask it for students in college. I know that
Uh-huh.
you posted some, I mean, published some research papers during your college time as well. So, how should a
Hmm.
college student pursue research?
Okay. So it's a good question. So pursuing research within a college, now there, if you are in a engineering college, there are professors who, not all but some professors actively take up some research projects. You can obviously collaborate with them. One thing, and if you are asking from a perspective of research, then they publish it as a research paper or patent have two different, they are two different categories, and they are not related somehow. Uh, when you publish a patent, you are in a way telling, you're publishing your research out and telling uh, to wider audience. And the idea for publishing research is to basically contribute back to the academics and tell them that this is what I researched on, these are my results, so that anyone who is reading your research paper can actually build on what you have derived from or derived in your research, and then probably take it forward. When you're publishing a patent, the idea is to basically protect your innovation in a way that you want to basically somehow monetize it, or somehow you want it to protect it from anyone else using it without your permission. So there are two different goals associated with research paper and patent. And um, if you ask me how should a student get involved in research, I would say try to identify opportunities around you, talk to the your classmates, your batchmates, or the professors, and see if there is active research going on within your society that your college has, or with basically the
Teams that you
students,
say.
if any student is involved in some research. And if that is something you're still not able to explore, then what I recommend to do is, there are these days there are a lot of different blogs where tech companies basically post their active research, academic related stuff.
Okay.
And
So
top IT companies are also posting them. So you can actively read them. You can identify which areas you find interesting, and then probably search around the problems related to that area, and then try to work on them.
okay. So I think that is quite helpful. Besides that, I mean, if how to approach professors which are not in your college, how to approach some of the foreign professors, and how keen are they to take upon Indian students for their work? Can you highlight that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So some universities have their own internship or research associate programs wherein you can apply, and your profile will go through proper screening channel and whatever the criteria is to get selected.
Okay.
And more than that process, I think students apply on ad hoc basis to the professors, uh, whenever they feel like. To do that, what I recommend is to basically go to the university's website. I'm not sure. So there's a drastic difference in how things are being portrayed in US or any other universities, and how things are being portrayed on the website, university website in India. And I don't have the complete visibility about the factual details, but if you go to some of the top universities' website, you'll definitely find the research topics they are currently pursuing or they had in past, and you'll also find associated professor with them. So the idea is, if you feel that you find any project interesting or you find any domain interesting, and you can identify that this particular professor is working in this particular domain or on this particular project, and you can surely reach out to them on their official email ID, and take a chance if you get a response from them. Some professors are very humble, and they would respond to you in case, even if they don't have any opening for you.
Yes.
Whereas there might be some cases you might not even hear back. So don't get disheartened, but do try. So the idea is to identify the professors, talk to your peers who are already in different universities, maybe from your school or maybe from your different social media networks. And that is one way to identify the professors. Second way is to probably research on the websites of the universities. Third is to again go back to the scholars pages and see the research papers, and try to identify which professors published which papers under which category, and then you can probably approach them. It's a
So
tough fight. It's not success ratio might be low, but
yes.
it's worth trying.
So what do you recommend for someone in a top tier college, like DTU,
Mhm.
for example? Should they go with research from their own professors or look for opportunity outside? What are the criterias that you think should matter most?
I think the idea here should be to basically see the long term plan here.
Okay.
If your long term plan, so most of the students in DTU have long term plan. Not most, probably a good chunk of students have a long term plan to pursue MS. And there have been cases where when you apply for MS, you need to get recommendation letters. And if your professor is within the same university you are applying to, that recommendation letter is obviously more valuable. And sometimes, if let's say if you were pursuing active research in a university where you are applying for masters, there are chances where you might get your tuition fee, let's say, waived off. I have had some friends who have been offered tuition fee being waived off. And that matters because universities outside are very expensive, especially for masters. So you need to align your goals with your long term plan. So if you are in DTU, if or any comparable university, and your goal is to pursue masters and active research in future, then it's good if you try outside, and considering if you want to go abroad for masters. Otherwise, I cannot speak for every university, but DTU itself has a lot of opportunities for research. I have been involved for
One
all my
second,
four
and
years
sorry
in.
to interrupt. So anyone who
Yeah,
wants to ask a question, you can put in the chat. I'm continuously monitoring the chat. So Tushar says that he wants to ask a question. You can ask questions in the chat. You can please continue, Vipul. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no problem. So long story short, uh, if you want to go for masters and all, definitely try applying abroad. Otherwise, universities in India specifically, I can only talk about DTU because I've been there, and they have a lot of research opportunities within the university itself. So uh, try to align with your long term goal.
Okay. So once, so I mean, is should there be a fixed format to send every professor a mail? Like suppose I'm approaching XYZ professors or M number of professors. So should there be a fixed format, or should I modify those mails according to the professor that I'm approaching?
A very good question. So now understand that you are on a journey where you are trying to approach those professors via email, and similar to you, there might be a lot of students who might be willing to do that. So professors annually might be getting a lot of emails from students whom they don't know, and but students, these are the students who want to work with them. So, and that is also something that makes professor not to be able to respond to all emails. So my idea here is make sure you personalize those emails. If you're spamming those emails, then there's high probability that you might end up sending wrong details to the wrong professor. And even if that is not true, then professors with their experience know that which email is personalized to them or which email is spam. So avoid spamming, but try to personalize email. Try to mention your relevant skills for the domain you are applying to. For example, if you are applying to image processing research project with the professor, you might want to highlight about the projects you have or the learnings you have in that particular area.
Okay.
And but do personalize. That is my suggestion here.
So, should we approach professors with a topic already in mind, or should we stick to that? Okay, this professor works in image processing, so I should approach him only with a mindset that only image processing, or can I approach him with general things like suppose I'm interested in something else like voice recognition. So, should I approach him with those kind of projects, or think of a research of myself and ask him for guidance?
Okay, so here are two different things. One, are you approaching professor for an opportunity to work under him for the projects which he owns? Second, which you are asking right now, is about mentorship.
Okay,
You know, you are the second one is where you are telling that I want to work on this area. Will you be able to mentor me for this?
okay,
Right. So when I say, and you know it's always good to either way, it's always good to have a guidance from someone who has experience in that particular domain. So mentorship is something people rarely try to get abroad. And when you are asking someone for mentorship, uh, and I'm sure professor sees it as a good opportunity to mentor a student, because that is what one of their goal is in their career. But these two things don't totally relate. If you are applying to any foreign professor or Indian professor uh, for active participation in their projects, then you need to stick to what they have to offer.
okay,
Otherwise, if you're asking for mentorship, then figure out who are the you know key researchers in the area which you want to propose, and then clearly call out that you want mentorship because you are working on so and so project, or you want to work on so and so project and you need mentorship on this. So that way they'll be able to relate it. Are you asking for an opportunity or are you asking for mentorship? And if they have bandwidth, they might help you with mentorship. Otherwise, if you're looking for the opportunity to work on, they might help you if they have you know any opening under their project.
all right. So that is some good advice. And now let's shift the focus from research to cracking a tech placement. So, what is the major strategy you feel one should use to prepare for interviews?
Okay, so I mean, I would say I'll be very honest here. And during my entire college life, I never studied for specifically for interview.
Okay,
So I never went on any code chef or any other coding environment to basically build my coding skills just specifically for interview. So I never when I joined college, there were a lot of competitive coding competitions which I joined, but then I moved on more to research, and then I completely gave up competitive coding. And but what I have realized it is, if you're looking for software engineering roles in the company, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you need to be good at competitive coding.
Okay.
And the idea here is there. How do now the point is how do you succeed in that? So that comes from if you're doing you know few questions daily just to gear up on your interview questions, that should be enough. So go on to one of those websites who have all those questions listed and you can practice online. Stick to one website. Don't try to get involved into multiple websites. That will just basically create a sense of confusion for you. And try solving easy ones first and then medium ones first and probably then the hard ones. And I also understand that not every student has the same caliber. So
Yes.
you need to and the story is that every company has their own interviewing strategy. Some companies basically ask you very hard questions, and some companies might not ask you a very hard you know hard problem, but they might try to more judge you on the your capabilities and more how your thinking process. So if you feel that competitive coding is not something you can do, you can basically try to bucketize those questions and say that if this particular segment is getting very hard for me, I will not focus on this particular segment, and I will just focus on the segment that I can excel in. And even if that means that I'll not be able to go to, let's say, one or two companies, they might not end up selecting me, then there are a lot of different companies still available for you to apply to. So don't feel sad if you're not able to solve all the questions, because you need you you don't need to excel in all those questions. It's a very sad story that the environment is so competitive that I see students focusing a lot of competitive programming just for interview sake. If you really if that is something that really excites you, that is good to do. But if you're just doing it for interview sake, I would recommend don't go too hard on yourself. Try to bucketize your the the problem segment which you want to target, and try to identify. You can probably talk to the mentors, to talk to you know your peers in those companies, and try to identify what should be the right category of questions that you should focus on for those companies. And that would be my suggestion. So just don't go too hard on yourself for specifically for interviews.
All right. And I think this is contradictory to what general trend is. People literally are out there putting in hours and hours into competitive coding without
Right.
substantial results even at some point.
Right.
And there are
So,
also some people who are not putting so much effort, while simply because they're truly interested in it and they are not doing it for the sake of it,
true, true,
they
true.
are cracking better organizations, right? And
Yeah. So if it is interest driven, obviously you'll be better at it. If it is not interest driven, you're just doing it for the sake of interviews, then you might end up getting fatigue built in. So uh, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to clear those interviews. So you need to practice those questions. But the idea is to minimize the fatigue by not going beyond your capabilities. I mean, you need to build your capabilities, you need to grow your skills. So it's by some percentage you do need to go beyond, but don't go too hard on yourself by saying that uh, I need to perform like my 100% in the top hard questions every day, every time. So
yes. So, is there any
it is.
advice, any other advice you'd like to give in research or competitive or anything like of that sort? About let's make it a little more specific. Any advice about how to build your resumes?
By building your resume, you mean how to write down a resume or how to
How to organize it
gain more?
basically? How to organize it? How to make it effective in sort of sense?
I think we did a session earlier also on resume. You can post the link later in the description for it.
Yeah.
So, for the effectiveness of resume, what you need to do is basically just make sure the information you which you want to be there in a resume is clear enough so that any reader can basically grasp that very easily. He or she is not, putting a lot of effort or time to extract that information. And also just make sure that your resume is you know relevant to the position you are applying to. So let's say if you are applying to a management position, then you might want to modify it more in terms of how what capabilities or what positives you have for that particular role. If you are applying it for an engineering role, then you might want to demonstrate how you have contributed to software engineering if it is for a software engineering role. And having a position where you volunteered for something might not be very relevant in a resume when you're applying for an engineering role. But if you still want to keep it, it is a there's no harm. It might just demonstrate that you actively do actively do multitasking. So try to put more relevant information towards the upper side of the resume and less relevant towards the end of the resume.
So, final question: how should one apply to higher studies? What are the factors they should consider, especially abroad? Because what are the factors they should consider? How should they apply? And things like those.
Applying to higher studies is a whole different game. You need to study. You need to apply for those exams, GRE, TOEFL, and basically then there's a whole lot different process to write up SOPs, ask for recommendation letters. But all things you need to consider, I would say you need to consider the economics of it. There is a lot of money you will be spending on your masters, and there is probability that you might get a good job there, and that is something you need to figure out. However, I would say there, if you are doing good in India itself, India IT industry is also one of the great IT industries in the world, and industries in India also pay good. So that is also something you need to consider. Are you really applying for master just for the sake of having a good job, or just moving abroad? And then different concern would be, is your family supportive? Do you want to be close to your family? And that is a very personal opinion. And if you're confused, like I have been in my my life about this decision, I have been through the same phase. If you are confused, I would say just apply to the universities. It would take some months, I would say, where you'll be preparing for GRE and TOEFL and giving those exams, then writing SOP, asking for recommendation letters. So do apply,
Mm,
and when the results finally come out, then decide if you want to go on.
okay.
And
So,
that is one great advice I got from one of the top managers in one of my companies, I would say. And I was confused if I should apply or not, because I was already having a good job, good salary. And he asked me, so he wanted to retain me, but at the same time he was a good mentor to me. So he asked me, people, do apply. Once you have a result in the hand, once you have invites from the university, then decide whether you want to go or not. And that advice worked out for me. I applied, I got some invites, and by the time I had invites in my hand, I knew that I don't want to go for MS now.
okay. So, uh, so don't you think that the process of deciding whether you want to apply also takes a certain amount of preparation and then does take time out of your regular life? So, if you're in it and you're not completely in it, so doesn't that make it a bit obsolete?
If you are in it, if you're not in it, okay. So if you're a student right now, I would say the whole expectation from you during your this stage of life is to learn and explore different things. And when you say you want to apply MS, in a way you are basically saying that you want to continue this for a while, where you want to build up some expertise in the area which you are applying to. For that, if you say that you'll have to spend some months preparing for the application. That is true for any higher studies application which you will be, even if you're going for MBA, let's say. That is
Yes.
same for MBA also. You might want to prepare for GMAT or CAT here. Then, and again, I'm no one to judge here, but that is how admissions work here or abroad. You need to perform on those exams, and that in a way is also you know helps in the learning curve, where you might want to basically build up. revise all those skills. If you're in engineering college, you probably have gone through this cycle once where you already studied or not studied for your entrance exam for engineering.
All right.
So it's
So
not that hard compared to getting into a BTech college, but still it takes up a lot of time and builds up fatigue when you're applying for a master's.
all right. So thank you for the great advice and definitely saving this session. Um, we were quite sad to know that our guest today originally wasn't able to join, but then thank you again. So thank you for the
No
great
problem.
advice. And if anyone has any other doubts, you can put in the comment section. We'll just wait for 2 minutes and then we'll end the session here. And thank you again, Vipul, for the amazing advice
Sure,
and putting in your time and effort.
sure, no problem, Sumant.
So, I don't think there are any doubts that anyone has. Nonetheless, we'll just wait here for a minute or two if anyone puts up any question. So anyway, thank you to everyone for joining. And if you've liked, I mean, of course, we had some glitches over there. And thank you for joining. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I'm really sorry for what happened in the beginning. And this is something that is beyond my control or anybody else's, honestly. And thank you for joining in. And see you next time.